I call this meeting of the Red Oak Independent School District to order at 7:00 p.m. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. All board members are present with the exception of John Anderson. And Mr. Sebring, will you give us the invocation?
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for this opportunity to come together and discuss the business of the district, Lord. We just ask that you watch over and protect our community, our students, our staff, and all those that are impacted by it. Lord, be with us as we conduct this business. Watch over and protect us as we go from here. In your name we pray. Amen.
Ms. Knight, will you speak to the pledges?
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor
On the
and
Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next we'll have our superintendent's report.
Yes, so we're going to start with our update on Stop It. Angela Fitzgerald.
I'm not Angela, but we're gonna do it together.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna visit with you guys a little bit and give you an update about our bullying protocols in the district, as well as the Stop It app. Let's see if we can get it to move forward. Is it turned on?
He's coming to the rescue. There we go.
This is the definition in Texas Education Code of bullying, which identifies bullying as a single significant act or pattern of acts by one or more students directed at another student that exploits an imbalance of power. And it has to include these three things that are listed underneath. It's quite an extensive definition, and so there has to be a lot of evidence to back up something if it's if someone's accusing someone of bullying. The next slide is about cyberbullying, which is bullying that involves the use of any electronic communication device, including through the use of a cellular or other type of telephone, computer, internet website, or any internet-based communication tool. David's Law came into effect in 2017 as Senate Bill 179, and it basically made it easier for students to be held accountable for bullying, to make sure that districts had bullying policies in place, and that parents were notified, both sets of parents were notified, the victim and the alleged aggressor. Our district policy is FFI, which is on the website for parents. These are bullying checklists. The one on the right is from the state of Texas. The one on the left is the same information. It's just been tailored for our district. It helps administrators make decisions about, is it bullying? Is it not bullying? It's basically just a checklist. Angela?
Okay, the next one's about what our district does to help in the prevention of bullying. And so all of our counselors present guidance lessons. Every student will receive a lesson by the end of the first grading period on what bullying is, how to recognize it, how to report it. We have the district-wide character education, which again are guidance lessons that are done by the counselors. Those are the topics that are covered. Those are the topics that are in board policy. And then our counselors do various small groups, mediation, social skills, emotional regulation. Reach Council comes in and does presentations. We have 2 mentoring opportunities for students through Inspire or Mentors Care. And so all of these things work together to help shape our students' character and help to prevent bullying. So Ms. Watts leads a district discipline committee, and they met together, and one of the needs that came out was that we do need a district framework that's consistent through all of the campuses for positive behavior and just a consistent district framework all the way through. So we are researching that and developing that for this year. Melody Hawkins has joined the department that I work in, the Counseling and Family Services, to help Ms. Watts and the discipline committee with this. So this framework would supplement with online modules that can be tailored to individual students and their behaviors. It has lessons for counselors. Teachers can implement the lessons. Well, the online modules, they also have whole class online modules, but they have specific interventions. So if a student is struggling or having behavior issues in one specific area, they can be assigned an online intervention module that is tailored to their need. And then, like I said, it's going to help with consistency across all campuses. So as our students move up to the middle school and to the high school, or we also do have a number of students that switch elementary schools from time to time, they should all be familiar with the new framework, leaving in mind that we'll also leave enough flexibility since every campus has its own needs. And then to further that, we have some professional development for staff, both district level and campus level, that will supplement the same kind of framework that we're implementing with the students. So next, I want to go over our anonymous reporting system called Stop It. I'm sure that you're somewhat familiar with it. This will be our 3rd year to implement Stop It in Red Oak ISD. And it's an app or web-based, but it's basically where anybody can anonymously report any safety concerns. So I think there might have been some confusion thinking that Stop It only addressed bullying, but Stop It can address a lot of incident types, which we'll see. And administrators, officers, and some administrators up here at the ESC all receive reports instantly. So when someone puts in an incident, they choose the campus that they're putting it in about. And as soon as it goes in, those campus administrators and then the people here at admin get a notification right then that there's a report in, so they can investigate it. If it's after hours or weekend or Christmas break, the Stop It company monitors those for us. And if there's a life-threatening incident put in, suicide, anything that is immediate, they monitor that, and they have several numbers from people up here at administration, and they call and let us know so we can automatically respond to that. So like I said, how bullying works with Stop It is if a bullying report is put in, it can automatically be reviewed. But bullying is reported in other ways. So parents call it in. A lot of times in elementary schools, parents come into the front office, parents email it in. So it's just one of the ways that bullying can be reported. We are using Stop It for documentation purposes, so we can see what's being reported and how it's being handled for our district. So we are starting to put those phone calls and in-person and emails in Stop It as well for documentation for our district. Chief Pacifica is going to be the Stop It program oversight individual, but all officers, all principals, assistant principals, Mr. Frills, Ms. Watts, and myself will receive every reported incident. So there are multiple eyes on the incidents so they don't get missed. And then if an incident comes through that is bullying, Ms. Watts will be monitoring those and she'll take the appropriate steps. If an incident comes through that's district threat assessment or that the counselors need to handle, then I'm monitoring those and we'll take the next steps. And then as far as once the incidents are investigated, they're closed out and Stop It. So they can be closed out as investigated and closed, unsubstantiated, false. There are places in Stop It where those of us that are reading it can write notes to each other. There are places where we can converse with, if someone put it in anonymously and doesn't want us to know who they are, we can send them a message asking for more information to help us investigate it. And then there's an annual refresher training for all involved staff every year. Okay. Ooh, this one looks different on the thing, but as I said, that there are different incident types. So these are all the incident types that's on the drop down when someone goes to put in an incident. So they select one of these incident types as the type, and then under it, they put the specifics of what it is. So we just have to keep in mind when we're looking at our numbers that they choose the incident type. So it's not always the correct incident type. So if a student's putting it in and they're putting in something violent, they might accidentally put it under drugs, alcohol, I mean, they might, if a student puts it in, they might erroneously pick the incident type. So we can catch those a lot of times, but just when we're looking at the numbers that I'm about to put, just keep in mind that they're inputted by the student or the parent, and so it's not like Stop It decides which incident it goes under. So last year for our data, we had 349 incidents that were reported into Stop It. This included the ones that were unsubstantiated. We had one or two that were jokesters putting some false stuff in. He stole my chicken nuggets kind of stuff. We had a couple that were put in 2 times because maybe the parent or the student didn't realize that it had gone through. So the 349 includes all those. And then the incidents underneath are what they were put in as. So 35% of our incidents were labeled bullying, cyberbullying, 12.6 harassment, intimidation, 10.6 threat or planned attack, 8.9% inappropriate conduct, 8% other, and then all the other incidents that were listed on the other page, all of those were under 5%.
So, including what we get in Stop It, I also receive bullying reports from the campuses, from the assistant principals. They have about a 5-page form. It's quite lengthy that they fill out. And this year, the elementaries had 55 total, the middle school 89, and that includes what's in Stop It. The high school 23. Most reports are unsubstantiated as bullying. Most are a simple or a single incident without an imbalance of power. So very few end up being bullying. Now let me explain, that doesn't mean that we don't take action. We move forward with the appropriate consequence in terms of the student code of conduct. So I would say that in every incident, some action is taken whether it's a stay away agreement or ISS or DAP, whatever is appropriate for the student. And basically, this just says that we conduct an appropriate investigation. Concluding report includes determination of whether or not bullying occurs. We have to notify the victim's parent within 3 days. And then it's good practice to also notify the perpetrator's parents as well. So all of those things are part of our process and part of what we do in Red Oak ISD. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I got a couple. When it comes in, it goes to the campus, it goes to admin.
Yeah.
Okay, so you both get it.
Yeah.
What kind of communication happens at that point between, I mean, is it instant or how long of a lag time is it between campus and administration?
When the stop it report comes in,
Mhm.
it's definitely within that day. It's pretty instant. If it's one, so some of the incident types like threats or suicide are in red and they're escalated. So if it's one of those and I see it come through, or one of the district people will call the campus, because they will get notified instantly on their phone, as well as us. We will get notified instantly, but obviously they're all over the building and super busy. So if something comes through that needs to be handled right then, I'll call, and then we'll also send additional emails. But we don't ever have one go over a day that's not assigned, because once it comes through, we can assign it to an administrator or assign it to a counselor.
Typically, the lead administrator on campus assigns it to an assistant principal.
Okay, okay. And the other question is, when these documents are complete and we close it out, who actually closes it? Is it?
It varies. So,
Okay.
if it is, most of the time, it's the administrator that works it after it's investigated that closes it out. If it's a threat assessment one, once the threat assessment's complete and I have that, then I close it out. And then we check every week to see how many are still open on every campus, so we can address and make sure that they're getting closed out in a timely manner.
Okay, that's, I guess the other question I had was, before it's closed out, what kind of communication, between admin and campus, just to verify that, we closed it out in the proper way? To make sure that we've covered all our bases, to make sure there's nothing hanging out there. And then when we close this out, that incident is complete and we know satisfactory is complete. That was the one thing I just wanted to make sure of.
When the administrator fills out the report that I mentioned, they send it straight to me,
Okay,
and I can review it and be sure that everything is okay.
okay, thank you.
And the state asks for those numbers. So
Okay.
we have to report.
Okay, thank you.
You were talking about guidance lessons and stuff like that. How do they do that at the upper levels, at the secondary levels?
So with the new protocols for bullying and the minimum standards, how we're doing that for secondary this year is we're having a video presentations that one of our secondary counselors is creating. And then we're going to review it. And then as soon as that's approved, all secondary students will watch that during the first week of school. So they'll all have consistent information about what bullying is and the Stop It program.
Mr. Waller has the 101 time. But the-
When it's closed out, how long is it kept, like on a particular student? So if you close something out for whatever reason and say that incident is over, but next year there's another incident with that student, would that then trigger you to go, oh yeah, I remember last year we closed it for this reason? And where is that housed?
It's still there in the Stop It app.
Okay. All
Like
right.
I can go back and run a report.
For how long does your
That's a
report go
great
back?
question.
Right, I'm not sure. It's been there for as long as we've had it. So,
Okay,
like,
because I know we've only had it for 3 years,
today I
so,
could look at the numbers, and
Okay.
then you can also search. There's different ways you can search, so it's not gonna automatically link a student when a new one comes up. But if we have issues or if there are concerns, you can search by a student's name, and it'll pop up any report that that student's been mentioned in.
okay.
I know that it's anonymous, and I think that's great because most students aren't gonna do it if they think they're being a tattletale about something, and I get that. But isn't that very difficult? I mean, I know being on the board, people are always saying, well, somebody told me. Well, if you don't know who's telling you this, it's really hard to investigate, isn't it?
It can be, so for the elementary ones, it's mostly parents that put in, and parents usually are not anonymous. And then for secondary, they usually put enough information that it can be investigated. So they might not put their name, but they might put in third period, and they name the student who was doing it to them. And so there's usually enough for the administrator to start the investigation.
And then we can go in and request additional information. That doesn't mean they're gonna give it to us,
But you can. And several times last year, the administrator would put, can you please come see me at your lunch? Like, and they would talk to them, but still leave it anonymous on the system.
I had a question right quick. Who's teaching the guidance lessons? You talked about they're going to be teaching the lessons portion of it. Who's teaching that guidance lesson? I get it for the youngers, but who's doing it for the older, the secondary and in the high school,
It's the counselor still.
the counselors? Okay.
Any more questions? Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. And next we have Ms. Trimble. It's going to be presenting our strategic plan update.
Good evening. We have been busy, as you know, with Flight Plan 2023 expiring. We started in the spring with Flight Plan 2028 to revamp our 5-year plan. I'm going to go through the beginning of this pretty quickly because it's the same beginning part of the presentation that you guys saw back in April with our committee. So our vision and our mission have not changed. We are still realizing our individual students' dreams, being prepared, grit, character, and service with the 4 talents of the Hawk. The planning process, as we mentioned, started back in March. It was a quick process, but we went in very deep, very quick. We had our subcommittees that worked with our cabinet leadership. Following that, we did the presentation of Flight Plan 2.0 for the 2028. And we did the presentation back in April, and then this now is the actions and next steps that the departments took to reach those goals that were set by the committee. So we talked a little bit about the big rocks, these goal statements. Some of them were part of what the board has asked for the district to be doing, and some of them are things that were developed by our committees. And so we'll see a little bit of both of those things in our strategic plan. The school board, actually, as I mentioned in their board goals, those strategic things they wanted to see met, the big rocks the district has established. The strategic planning committee then worked on the whole plan, did the input and prioritizing things, setting the goal statements, and then the SMART strategies have now been done with departments and the action steps, and that's what we're going to get into tonight. So the first one is academics. Develop critical thinkers that will transcend college and career goals by excelling in the 4 talents. So these are the 3 goals that the committee came up with. So then what we're going to do is go in by each goal. So goal 1. So now you're in academics, goal 1. And then we're going to go into what the action steps are that the departments have fleshed out with committee input and just the things that we came up with along the way that we were already looking at for best practices. So the action steps were develop students who are college, career, and military ready that possess the academic skills for post-secondary readiness. So the 111 is to increase the number of pathways for CCMR, that's the college, career, military ready, for our students. Identify Texas state standards that align with the Scholastic Assessment Test for the SAT. and make them priority standards on each grade level for the YAG, that's the year at a glance, for grades 2 through 12. Increase our student enrollment in practicums that lead to industry-based certifications, primarily those are in our CTE courses, and increase the passing rates. And offer the Texas School Initiative, the TSI, beginning in the 10th grade. For goal 2, to equip students to be well-rounded with interpersonal skills and manage day-to-day challenges. We want to offer mentors care to students at the high school and students identified at risk. We want to make sure we have mentors matched up with all of those students. And provide lessons focused on interpersonal skills. That goes back to some of that behavior framework. For goal 3, to engage students in meaningful learning. That includes a variety of instructional strategies. We'd like to have the action steps that will monitor data from Dimension 2.1, which is the teacher supports all learners in their pursuit of high levels of academic and social emotional success. From the T-test walkthroughs, to model and implement high-yield instructional strategies monthly at campus meetings, and to monitor data from Dimension 2.5. The teacher formally and informally collects, analyzes, and uses student progress data and makes needed lesson adjustments from T-test walkthroughs. So I'm going to stop right there before we go into HR and ask if you guys have questions on the academics piece. As you know, cabinet members are here. These are their department goals. We've talked through them with cabinet as well, but I'll be glad to answer any questions you have on academics.
I have one quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not necessarily linked to academics, but just for the people that have not seen this or heard this before, we were talking about the committee.
Mhm.
Can you, I don't need names, but just how, not how it was chosen, but what was the cross-section of people?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. We had a very robust committee, and all we had over 40 committee members that were part of this process. They were broken out into these, what we call kind of the 5 big rocks, with academics, kind of our operations, our facility and growth. We have communications, we have human resources, and we have finance. So we had 5 different committee groups that met. They were a cross-section of staff, parents. We actually had students on most. I think we had 4 students, so one didn't have a student on it, but we had students part of that as well, along with community members, alumni, and other individuals that were interested in participating. They submitted if they were interested. We made sure we had a cross-section, and by cross-section, we made sure we had elementary teachers from all the different schools. We made sure we had secondary teachers. We made sure we had different subjects. So we wanted to not just have all core subjects, we wanted to have electives as well. We made sure we had CTE instructors in there. And so we wanted to have a good, robust group that was really a cross-section of our students and our staff and our community. You're very welcome. Hearing none other, I will move on to human resources. The intentional progress to hire and retain high-quality staff to ensure best learning. So we're going to go through each of those goals. To attract, engage, and retain top talent through competitive compensation packages. Thank you, board. You guys have done a phenomenal job of increasing our compensation packages. But along those, we're going to continue to do those things. So those action steps are to offer at least one additional employer-paid benefit per school year. So that may be insurance, that may be a lot of different pieces that we have. And so we're going to make sure that we're offering additional employer-paid benefits. Maintain a competitive salary structure that is reviewed every single year. For goal number 2, to foster a supportive and inclusive work environment through differentiated strategies that promote employee retention. We're going to develop team building strategy ideas for campus and department leaders that will promote staff retention with their respective campuses and departments, and conduct teacher and paraprofessional focus groups and surveys to gain insight into staff retention. We want to know why, if they're going to stay, what they want to stay about. For part 3, goal 3, to develop innovative and targeted recruitment practices that meet the diverse district needs of all employees. We'll want to continue, and we've done some of this, to develop a grow your own program at all levels in the organization, and to expand recruitment strategies. And so any questions on HR's components?
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
On talking about the conducting teacher and paraprofessional focus groups, how often are we looking at doing that? Oh, that's on 2.2.2.
Yes. I think on the teacher, it's really just a matter of making sure at least each semester that we're having kind of a touch point. We do have an employee action committee that meets each semester as well already. So we already have that group, but we want to make sure that we're reaching all of our different groups and really specifically getting insight into our staff retention.
Okay.
So when we're growing, we're getting teachers and like paras and all that, do we have set a time frame? Okay, we're doing this, but you got to stay for a while?
As far as when we hire people, it depends on what we hire them in as. For instance, we do have scholarships for paras to go on to become professional, to go on to become teachers. They do sign a contract to stay on for a certain number of years. So if we are offering something kind of above and beyond, then yes, we do that. And so those may be some of those strategies. It may be professional growth, but you're going to be obligated to stick with the district once we invest in your professional development. Absolutely.
It's not Red Oak, you come learn and you go somewhere else.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, how are we doing like recruiting within? So are we encouraging teachers to go back and do their masters and to stay on with us? Like, what are we doing for
A great
the
example of
district?
that is what we have tomorrow. We have a
Okay.
career opportunity fair expo tomorrow.
Okay.
We have our colleges on hand so that if you're looking for another professional growth pathway, say you're already a teacher, but you want to get your counseling certification, or you want to go on, become superintendent, those sort of certification programs or advanced degree programs are going to be an opportunity for them to learn about. We'll have some information about the scholarship program that we do have for paras to become professionals. We have our regular job postings as well, and then we'll have certification programs for alt certs and regular certification programs. So if a paraprofessional wants to learn how to become a teacher, that's available as well. We'll have student nutrition licensing, how to get the licensing for CDL to become a bus driver, those sorts of things. And so instead of taking just a simple job fair, we've developed sort of, the HR has developed, I just made the marketing. We developed a opportunity expo. So that if people are interested in having a career in Red Oak ISD, they can learn how to get a foot in the door, how to get professional development, how to have professional growth, how to have a longevity career in our school district. But those are the things that we're kind of coming up with, are these kind of, how do we grow our own people into leadership roles beyond the classroom or from auxiliary into professional positions.
So retention, we are positive when it comes to, we want you to stay. Even if you're going to leave this role, we want to grow you.
Correct.
So that you stay within the district
Yes,
instead of
ma'am.
losing people out of it.
And that's been some of the scholarships that we've offered the last couple of years for paraprofessionals that want to come in, and they love being a classroom aide. They maybe couldn't afford to go to traditional college, and so now they're looking at, I really want to get my teaching certificate. How can I go about doing that? Well, first we've got to get your bachelor's degree, and so let's get you into a college program or into an alt cert program if you already have a degree.
So do we keep a list, like say we've got teachers that have gone in to be principal? Do we keep a list of those to where when we need a principal, they're the first that we can go after instead of putting it out there for the public and ignoring our own here?
Sure, we definitely have an internal pool as well. It's just a matter of if it's the right match for that particular position, but we definitely look at our internal candidates for sure. Other questions on HR? Okay, we're going to move on to finance. So the overall statement is to maintain fiscal stewardship and accountability to ensure financial stability and transparency. So we'll go through each of these goals. To ensure fiscal accountability and responsibility of resources to support the district's mission. So the action steps are to continue to receive an unmodified, clean audit, annual financial audit and passing scores on state financial accountability reports, and to explore new revenue streams through grants and donations. On goal 2, to ensure fiscal integrity by creating and maintaining a sufficient operating budget for the everyday operations of the district. The action steps will be to have an annual budget developed that supports district priorities, objectives, and goals while maintaining fiscal responsibility, aligning with our district mission, and maintaining a healthy fund balance. Who knew the budget guy would write so much, right? The budget development process will demonstrate the district's transparency, integrity, and honesty in all financial reporting while submitting financial documents in line with fiscal and transparency awards. and have monthly individual budget reviews to ensure meeting budget guidelines and student focus, as well as monthly cash audits for all campus and departments that manage cash, which we manage less and less cash with school cash and other programs that we have been using. Continuing with Goal 2, an annual review and update of financial procedures to ensure purposefulness and support federal and state requirements, as well as the district's priorities and mission, and to work with key administrators to strengthen and further define multi-year capital needs plans to see if the projects can be budgeted and fiscally sustainable. That's a lot. The third goal for finance is to educate stakeholders about the public education finance system and funding of Red Oak ISD through regular and transparent communication. To continuously monitor local, state, and federal legislation that may impact our financial planning and communicate any financial impacts to the stakeholders. Engage all stakeholders through different methods to communicate the district's ongoing financial position and educate stakeholders regarding school finance, and offer school finance training to district and community groups on a regular basis. Questions about finance?
No, but a comment.
Yes, sir?
Dr. Bill, thank you. I know he takes very good care of us. He watches very well, and the words show that.
Absolutely.
We just, the transparency is the biggest part of it all, is with our community. And I think we're doing that, and I just say, let's keep going with it. And that way they know what we're doing, and they'll stand behind us.
Absolutely.
The last one, where it says offer finance trainings to district and community groups. Explain that to me. I mean, what type of community group, like Chamber of Commerce? I mean, I don't know what type of finance training you would do to someone that wasn't in the district.
I would think some of it, and you're more than welcome to jump in, would be things like our parent university and offering maybe just a quick finance 101 about how our maintenance and operation budgets are developed. Looking at our parent groups at individual campuses, say a PTA meeting's going on, just a snippet of finance. All the finance at once, overwhelming.
Okay,
But to have small snippets of it, we can also use our video series. We've done some of that with school finance already, but using reels, even small snippets of things to just give people a little bit of information at a time, and so to make sure that that's part of it. And community advisory groups. Yeah.
Thanks.
Other questions? Finance, okay. Moving on then to growth facilities and security. To prioritize and allocate resources to ensure safety and security and appropriate facilities. So we'll go through these three goals and the action steps. Provide facilities to accommodate current and future growth across the district. Review student enrollment projections and continue to review the current Red Oak ISD facility plan for opportunities to address documented needs and addition of a new Red Oak Middle School. Yay. To ensure district facilities meet and exceed safety and security standards for physical requirements, technology systems, and implementation of procedures and protocols. We know this is a big one, so there's a lot in this one. Implementation of new safety and security mandates from TEA by fall of 2024. Evaluate and update district technology infrastructure, equipment, and protocols to ensure implementation of legislative requirements and best practices. Provide district-wide safety training before each new school year to all staff members. Training should include utilization, that one got me, of the Raptor Alert and Accountability Reunification System and the Standard Response Protocols, SRP. The same training should be provided by Red Oak ISD PD to all new hires as they are onboarded. And to attempt to have facilities meet or exceed minimum standards for all programs to provide opportunities for student participation. To review and analyze the student populations with Red Oak ISD and to monitor student programs within the district in terms of student participation and facility needs to make sure that our programs that are growing have places to grow. Questions on growth facilities and security?
You know, security is a big thing nowadays. Yeah.
I know, right?
So I know we've already implemented, some of the safety protocols and we're well on our way. But how are we doing right now? I mean, as far as, are we pretty well on target?
Physical facility safety?
Yes.
Do you want to speak about it?
We are implementing the safety protocols as mandated and we're ahead of schedule.
We're ahead of schedule. We're ahead of most districts.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So on the safety trainings, are those done in person or are those online? And I ask that because I know online, people do it year after year and it doesn't sync like it does when you're doing it in person.
I believe the safety training in person?
Yes.
Yes.
They're in person. The onboarding, we have to utilize some of it. Once school starts, every staff member would be in person.
So for our online listeners, yes. All of that is in person for our annual refresher training for Raptor and safety. And they do pick up the new hires as they're onboarded.
Now, do the substitutes go through this same training when we have subs in the buildings?
Yes. So they do the full safety training as far as SRP goes, but not the Raptor because they don't have the apps. Okay. So the last piece is communications to ensure district is connected to community and partnerships to further student success while communicating transparently and effectively. So our biggest priority is to prioritize and enhance parent-teacher communication. We are researching and will continue to research and develop recommendation for tools and expectations and to supplement with district and campus communication plans. Our second goal is to provide opportunities to foster positive relationships between students, parents, schools, and staff and the community. And we are working on developing an annual plan for engagement at district and campus levels and then develop a volunteer recruitment and engagement plan. Questions on communication?
When you say develop a volunteer recruitment, who's in charge of that?
Karen Anderson is our volunteer coordinator,
Okay.
and she and I are working on what a full volunteer recruitment and engagement plan looks like.
Okay.
We will be re-implementing a volunteer appreciation event in the spring.
Okay.
We will be working with campuses on making sure that they have volunteer opportunities for their parents that want to come up and volunteer on a regular basis to get engaged on their campuses.
Okay.
We will return to pre-COVID robust volunteers. Yes, ma'am. Other questions? All right, the next steps, that was tonight's presentation of the district strategic plan actions. The departments are implementing these actions. The first progress will be brought back to the board in January of 2024 to kind of give you a snapshot of where we are on these action steps at that time. Any other questions for us? All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job.
You have anything else, Ms. Storm?
That's all for the superintendent's report.
Debbie, do we have any? Oh, good, I don't have to read this whole long page. Okay, next is item 6A, which is our consent agenda. Are there any items that any of the board members would like to have pulled and considered separately? If not, do I have a motion?
I make a motion to accept as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Mr. Knight and seconded by Mr. Sebring. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, the motion passes 6-0. Okay. My page won't turn, sorry. And 6B is consideration and approval of board endorsement of TASB director candidate. Hey, board members, in our packet, there was a list of director candidates for position D for a TASB director. After looking at this, do any of you have somebody that you specifically want to nominate for board director? And we do not, if nobody stood out to you, I mean, there's been many years, I think most of the time, we don't endorse a candidate because there's nobody that we nominate. So Did any of you have one of the candidates that you want? Anybody? Okay, so seeing none, we will move on to, next is consideration of an official delegate and alternate delegate for the TASB Delegate Assembly, which is in September, and it will be September 30th is when our delegates would need to serve. So do we have any volunteers, or would somebody like to nominate? First, let's go with the delegate. Would somebody like to nominate a delegate or volunteer?
I'll nominate Michelle to be the delegate.
All right.
Yep.
Second.
Okay, so that was, the motion was by Ms. Knight, and the second was Sebring. Do I hear a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 6-0. Then for the alternate, do I have a volunteer or someone who wants to nominate an alternate?
I'll nominate Sean Kelly as the alternate delegate.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. So that was Mr. Sebring made the motion and Johnny Knight seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes 6-0. Next on the agenda is the consideration and approval of local policy updates. Ms. Sulak will give us information.
Good evening. This is the same packet that you saw last time. This is just the recommendation for you to approve it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. This is the local local policy recommendations based on our existing policies.
Anybody have any questions on this? Okay, seeing none, do I hear a motion?
I move that we accept the recommendations for the changes to local policies as recommended by administration.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Sebring and the second by Ms. Knight. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and that motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and next is a consideration of technology consulting services. Ms. Corns will give us some information.
Good evening. As requested tonight, I am bringing some additional information regarding the recommendation that I brought forward last month for partnering with True North Consulting Group to do a technology audit. So I've asked Mr. Johnson and Ms. Wicker from True North to come, and they'll be able to answer any questions after I go over a few of the points from for what brought us here tonight. So as previously shared with the team, the item last month, we are looking at doing a comprehensive technology assessment or an audit. So when you look at what this will provide us, this is going to give us a real holistic picture from everything from our cabling to our infrastructure all the way to the classroom. And so this opportunity right now with the new strategic plan, with having a new middle school on its way, it really is just the perfect time. So I'm going to step through a few of the pieces. So one of the major pieces is cybersecurity. So new legislation has come out in addition to a lot of attacks right now on K-12. And so this having a group that comes in from the outside that are technology experts and are experts in the K-12 area as well, that have the most up-to-date information on best practices will provide us an outside perspective. We are doing a lot of our checklists, but this just provides an outside audit to look at our systems and to see if there's any best practice that we may not be as familiar with that they can bring to us. So these are just a few of the areas that, a few of the districts in the city of Dallas that have been hit by cybersecurity issues recently. So as a district, we have a policy and a practice of doing audits in a lot of different areas. So a lot of our departments, our business office conducts a yearly one, our human resources, when they had a transition change, they had in their leadership, they went ahead and did an audit of the human resources department. Our special education does a cyclical review with all of the new state expectations that are changing. So they do a state auditing, student nutrition, and then even the cabinet did a policy audit to make sure that we're caught up with the most recent changes. There isn't an expectation from the state for a technology audit. However, technology touches every single department in our district. There is not a single department that is untouched by technology. And so when we look at that, what we were looking for was how can we see where we are right now, where we are headed, and how do we get there in the most fiscally responsible way. Right now, we just had a retirement with Mr. Maceda, and so this provided an opportunity where we already have an item budgeted for that salary in our technology budget, so we were able to do this audit without a budget impact because it would already be within our budget. And so we sat down, and as I took on this position, I spoke with different representatives from these areas. Just asking, when you have somebody that's coming into a CTO position, what do you do to make sure that everything is where it needs to be? So I think of being a campus principal, I walked the building. What does that look like for a CTO? And a lot of them talked through bringing in somebody from the outside that can be an unbiased voice and an unbiased view. And so we started reaching out to different groups. What drew us to True North was that they were not a reseller. They are in the technology education business, and their focus is education. They're not about selling the latest equipment. They were about partnering with us and making sure that we have the right people in the right places and the right equipment, and that we know where our people want us to go by listening to what's going on in the classroom. So it provided us that full assessment piece. And so as we started looking at that piece, then we started looking at what all we wanted. And their comprehensive assessment provided us the opportunity to have all of the audits that we were looking for. We want to get away from just purchasing because it's the new shiny object. We want to make sure that we're buying the things that our teachers find relevant to classroom. And they will actually be conducting those focus groups along the way, plus being able to provide us experts in these areas. And so when we started looking at how could we address that, their team would be coming in and working with us. So they have experts in all of these areas that would be partnering with us to meet that goal. So Mr. Johnson specifically has a history in K-12. So he's a board member as well. And so he knows where we're headed in school districts. And so, but he's seeing it also from the technology side. Okay. And so as we look at kind of where we're headed for our projects, we know that these are the projects in front of us. We know that we have a lot of different pieces that we're going to be evaluating, but the partnership with True North would allow us to have somebody that comes in and can see it from the outside, because we know kind of where our checklist is, but there may be pieces that we need to put above these, or just prioritizing these pieces in addition to where we are. And so at this time, I'm going to have Mr. Johnson come up, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then he can also help answer any of your questions.
There we go. Ms. Sanford, trustees, thank you for having us here tonight. We're excited about this. I really get excited about technology and how it's integrated into everything that we do related to public education. I've got a 13-year-old who's going into 8th grade who tells me every single day, I hate going to school. And so technology can be one of those ways that we engage this new generation that's coming up. And I'll kind of get off the pedestal, but when I get in the pulpit, I get excited. But I'll just kind of ask you what questions that you all have for me. I want to be a good steward of your time.
Just a question for me. I know technology is advancing so fast. You know, I'm a geek myself. But the one thing I guess concerns me the most about cybersecurity is the dark web. You know, the information that's being passed out there. When you come in and you do an evaluation and you look at overall, I know you're looking at the core system, you're looking at our infrastructure. I guess the question that it comes to mind is, what do you see as maybe forecasting? I can't say the crystal ball, but what do you see coming down the pike on that? You know, as far as how to break it, how to stop it, you know?
Yeah. You know, I don't, I don't like talking about cyber incidents that happen in public education because we're under attack. But if you just Google, there was a statewide breach, you know, releasing student and staff names, email address. This is a daily thing. And I share with people that cybersecurity is kind of like school safety. You can't buy your way out of this. Cybersecurity is not a technology problem. It's a people problem. And so one of the things, if you look at our kind of our scope for this assessment, about a third of it is focused on cybersecurity, from looking at policies and practices and procedures to looking at the stuff, but also conducting a phishing campaign where we're not trying to trick anybody, right? But we're trying to measure our maturity in recognizing when someone is trying to trick you into giving them your information. Because that's how they get into our system. You know, on TV and movies, it's like, you know, they just type on their keyboard and it's like they're in, right? But we have to do something. We have to click on something or enter something in to give someone access. And so if I look into the crystal ball, what we have to do as part of public education is we've got to invest more time training our staff to take this seriously. You know, my wife, tonight's actually her retirement party after 27 years in public education. And as an elementary school principal, you know, she worked 300 hours a week, and her password was underneath her keyboard. And her, you know, secretary knew what her password is because that was survival for her, right? And so we've got to somehow figure out how can we enable and not let technology, safety and cybersecurity be an impediment to people doing their job so that they don't find ways around that. And so I say all that to say a lot of this will be focused on the policies, the procedures, and the people part of this.
Okay. That is a big part because there's so many times that an email come out and it'll have your name on it, but if you look at the address, it's not who it is.
Yeah.
And that's
I
happening
get
more
them-
and more.
I get them daily, and my employees get text messages, you know, and they'll send me screenshots and say, "Do you really want me to go get these Amazon gift cards?" And I'm like, "What do you think?" But yeah, it's a daily problem, and so we just have to be vigilant. And part of this is spending time with staff and helping them. And it requires, you know, support from the board because as a trustee, you've got to go through cybersecurity training. You know, and so oftentimes we go the path of least resistance because cybersecurity is an inconvenience, right? And so there's a line in the sand. I can secure your system, but no one will be able to use it, right? And so I got to find that balance. But oftentimes, if something's a major inconvenience, teacher will go to the principal goes superintendent, you know, or they'll go to the board and they're like, "All right, turn that thing off," you know, because it's getting in the way of its teaching. And so we have to dig in our heels a little bit and find where that line in the sand should be.
Good.
What's the timeline for your audit?
So that's a good question. Kind of the canned answer we give is about 90 days. But we can move as fast as you want to move. But there's a little bit of lift for the district because we visit every single campus and we walk into every single instructional facility while we're inventorying, while we're doing wireless site surveys and all of that. And so we have to find also a balance with not, you know, taking the technology team away from their day-to-day tasks. And then we've got to coordinate focus groups with teachers and with students. So yeah, I would say 3 to 6 months, depending on how fast you want us to go.
So-
from beginning to end.
Not
So
too
is that
fast.
what happens after the audit? You'll give an analysis?
Yeah, so great question. So when we're done, we have several deliverables. So we'll give you, I mean, literally, it'll be a stack of reports this tall. We won't give those to the board. We'll give those to technology.
Right.
But there will be a detailed kind of Bible, if you will, of findings, best practices, and recommendations. And so one of the things, since we don't sell hardware and software, this is our value. So part of it is making sure that there's low-hanging fruit, so there's some quick wins for the district. And our goal is for there to be some free quick wins. So just do this, and this will make things better. So we'll have a big book. We'll also have wireless maps of every single campus, so you will be able to visualize where wireless works and where wireless doesn't, and somewhere in between. We'll also turn over pictures of every single technology space. We'll turn over the district-wide survey, which is kind of that qualitative piece, and that, to me, is one of the most powerful pieces of this, because no one cares about the wires behind the wall. The wires behind the wall don't teach kids, right? So that's the how to our why, right? But the qualitative piece is really kind of pulling out of teachers and staff without a bias and without trying to guide them. Tell us what works, what doesn't work. If you could, design your dream classroom, what would be in it. So lots and lots of authentic data as a result of that survey. We turn that over, and then we usually button it up with an executive level presentation that we'll present to superintendent and cabinet, and then oftentimes to the school board in a workshop setting, and just take you through all of those findings if that's something that the board is interested in.
You did touch on something that, wireless. When we talk about wireless, we're also talking about security.
Absolutely.
Because there's times that if we're in a bad area and an occurrence is happening
Mhm.
and they have no form of communication, that can be a big problem.
Absolutely.
So I'll look forward to that part.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, as you build a new school, architects are making these schools very energy efficient. And it's interesting, Region 10 down the road, when they did a lot of their renovations, beautiful, additions and renovations that they did, cell phones don't work inside the building because they put in low energy glass. Well, what is cell phone service? Well, that's energy, that's RF, same thing as sunlight, right? And so we got to figure that out. How do I build an energy efficient building where cell phones and two-way radios work inside the building? So yeah, it's a lot here.
So with our new building coming in, will you be sitting with the people that are designing, or, that they've designed it and all, to where we know what we're going into when we build this new school?
We hope so. So the way this works, so you'll pick an architect, and the architect will hire their sub-consultants. We work with 95% of the architects that do, K-12 school renovations and design. But in those instances, the architects hire their specialties, and so that's just a cost that's built into the fees that you pay for the architects. But 9 times out of 10, we're the technology consultant that most architects hire. So if we were on the architects team, then absolutely. But as a part of the assessment, just so transparent, there's nothing to assess yet. And so the middle school is not a part of this, because this is to kind of capture a snapshot in time of where you are today,
Okay.
which is a great kind of jumping off point for the middle school, because oftentimes technology people, when we do it to ourselves, we buy first and then figure out how to apply it. And technology, we spend, it's millions and millions and millions of dollars. And so, this is why we exist. It's like, stop the insanity. Before we buy, let's assess, measure, and plan, and then go buy.
Yeah. Agreed.
Another question. I can talk all night. I'm so passionate about
Thank you
this.
for coming. Go be with your wife.
Thank you so much. Thank you. All right.
Thank
Y'all have a
you.
great
Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Ms. Corn? I know I personally, last time, was just a little bit hesitant because of price.
Right.
But since then, and since you brought it up tonight, I realized that this is not gonna be outside of it. It's not gonna be all this money on top of our budget because of certain circumstances. This is gonna fall right into what we've already budgeted, which makes me go.
It makes us all do that.
So if there are no more questions, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the True North Consulting Group for technology consultant services as presented.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Knight and a second from Ms. Porter. Do all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, and you all have seen your information items. Is there any questions on any of those? Ms. Sanford, do you have anything to add on the information items?
No, ma'am.
Okay, well, that being the case, the time is 8:06, and we will adjourn into closed session pursuant to multiple Texas government codes as listed on the agenda.